Thank you very much for having me. My name is Valarie Desharnais. I am part of the Minisink DAR chapter. So I'm here not only to talk about the Battle of Miniskink, but I'm going to tell a little bit about the DAR. We're going to talk about the battle so everybody has a brief understanding of the Battle of Miniskink. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the monument. So let's get started. Okay, so first, like I said, we're going to talk about Daughters of American Revolution, the battle, and the monument. Okay, so first about the DAR, what the Daughters of American Revolution is. It is a service organization of women that was established in the 1890s, and the membership is based on lineage membership. Lineage meaning that to have lineage back to somebody who served as a patriot in the American Revolution. It does not, in the DAR's definition of patriot, is not a patriot who fought in the Continental Army or in the militia. It definitely includes them, but it also talks to people who supported our fight for independence. It could have been someone who lodged the soldiers, provided the foods and supplies for the soldiers, took care of the horses. So under the DAR's definition, the umbrella of patriot expands to include a lot of people, both men and women. We also provide scholarships and essays for students. We also have teachers' aides on local history around the country. So if you have any teachers or students in your family, please by all means look that up, the dar.org. The website is a little overwhelming, but once you get the hang of navigating it, it has a wealth of information. And we also have one of the largest genealogical libraries in the country. It's located in Washington, D.C., and it is free to the public.
I am today's DAR.
DAR, what can I say? It changes lives.
I'm so proud of the work we do.
The lady in the DAR is such an inspiration to me.
I love DAR.
I'm today's DAR.
I am today's DAR.
I'm today's DAR.
I am today's DAR.
I am thrilled to be a member of the DAR.
I represent today's DAR.
I'm today's DAR.
I am today's DAR.
I am today's DAR.
And we are today's DAR.
So let me just tell you a little bit about how I became a DAR member. Is anybody else here a DAR member? And your patriot is from?
Pennsylvania.
Okay, great. My mother's family is from Bergen County, and I came across the Demarest family member that actually served in the Revolution, the American Revolution, in the Bergen County militia. And through that connection, I all of a sudden became, I felt a connection because I had a family member that was part of the American Revolution. It wasn't this far off thing that happened early on in our country's beginning. And that brought me to the DAR where I became interested in our local history. And I'm a member of the Minisink DAR chapter, and we do both local and national service projects. And every July 22nd, we have a commemoration ceremony for the Battle of Miniskink, because that is the day the battle took place, July 22nd. And it is open to the public, and I encourage anybody who can attend to attend. We also own the old schoolhouse on Route 17A between Goshen and Florida. We have 2 open houses this past year, and we also will open it for members of different groups that want to come and take a tour of the colonial schoolhouse. And it is, if not one of few, the only one left that is on its original site. So why does local history matter? So I want to just play this video, and you can advance it. Thank you, Cliff. So this is a great video, and it's about a 2-minute video, but it tells why local history matters and why we should keep it going and preserve it and our connection to it.
My name is Tom Dillon. I'm a historian. I studied local history and history of the family at the University of Limerick, and in 2020 I served as the Kerry County Council historian in residence. Local history is all about what happened in the past on our doorstep. It's about the neighbourhoods and the communities which we all belong to. It's part of your personal identity. It connects you to your home place, the streets, the houses, the fields, the farms, the mountains, the rivers. It is part and parcel of who we are ourselves. It's important to know about these places. I chose to study local history because it connected me to the place that I come from. And it wasn't about the big political history which we learn about in school. It was about what I was interested in. I lived in a railway cottage when I was a child, and that inspired me to go and learn about the railway which ran through my locality. I loved walking in the fields, and I came from a farming background. So I went and I learned about all the names of the fields and the places along the river where people fished. Local history is about how our home places fitted into the big history. For example, what happened to people from our towns and townlands who fought in the First World War, or who took part in the 1916 Rising, or who were involved in the War of Independence. When we study local history, we learn research skills. We learn how to gather the relevant information and how to present that as evidence in a written presentation or an oral presentation. Studying local history connects you to the past, and it helps us appreciate our heritage and the world around us.
So I like how he says how he can connect you to the past. I thought that was a great message. So now we're going to talk about the Battle of Miniskink. And a lot of times when you research battles that take place in the American Revolution, you hear about a lot of the facts, and it's all fact-based or folklore-based. But I'm going to start this with a story, because I want to bring the human element in it, and just to see perhaps how people were feeling, what emotions they were feeling before this battle took place and when this battle took place. So sit back and imagine that you are the main character of the story. You are a hard-working farmer back in 1779 in the Drownland section of Goshen, which was Pine Island. It is a hot summer day, and you are working in the fields alongside your sons, and your wife Mary is inside cooking with the girls. Your name is Benjamin Bennett. You just shaded your eyes from the grueling sun, and you see a rider frantically riding towards you. You stop and run to meet him. It is your neighbor, Captain Samuel Jones, and it is a call to the militia. Brant and his men have yet again ravaged the western settlements. They have plundered dwellings in Mahakamack and along the Delaware. They have burned dwellings, killed and wounded, stolen food stores and cattle. You run to the house to gather your militia supplies and your horse. Your oldest son, who is 15, is adamant that he wants to go and fight the savages as well. You tell Mary the militia is heading to Delaware and you should to pursue Brant, and you should be back in a day. You and your son join Jones, and you gather up other militia neighbors. You gather up the Knapp brothers, the young Valentine, and you head to Goshen to get orders from Commander Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Tustin. Your militia is instructed to ride to the confluence of the Neversink and Delaware rivers and meet up with other militias at Fort Decker. And you are fired up, and you are angry, and you are ready to fight, and you are fueled by your comrades as well. You make your way from Goshen through the great swamp, fighting off the mosquitoes, through Slate Hill and Westtown. Nightfall comes, and you are hot and tired, and the worst of the ride is yet to come. A slow, arduous ride up and over the mountains to the river valley into what is now Port Jervis. When you get there, there's over 100 other militias there. There are men from Colonel Hawthorne's regiment from Warwick. There's a Major Meeker there and his men from the Sussex militia. And there's others that you're just not sure who they all are. Colonel Hawthorne, being the highest in command, is now in command of everyone. A heated discussion gets everyone's attention. Tustin is stating that we should wait for reinforcements. We do not know the area like Brant. We do not know how many Indians and loyalists he has with him. Do we have enough ammunition? We should wait for reinforcements. Colonel Hawthorne appears to have reservations too. And you're thinking, we have come all this way to do nothing? Then there's this Major Meeker who jumps on his horse, brandishes his sword, and says, "Let the brave men follow me, and the cowards can stay behind." Well, that got all the men riled up. There was a vote, the pursuit began. Colonel Hawthorne instructed the joined militia to follow on the Coosatongue path that's on the high ground. And we finally got underway. All this standing around and arguing, now we can finally get Brant and avenge the plundered settlers. But wow, is it exhausting, and the hills are so steep and rocky, and the incessant heat is torture. We are doing more walking than riding, and I'm starting to have second thoughts if I should have brought my son, but his fife and drum is helping the march. What if Tuscan was right, and we aren't prepared? But we cannot let this pillage go unpunished. Yes, it is the right thing to do to pursue Brant, I think. And this is true wilderness, not the flat farmlands of Goshen. And by the time night falls, you're hearing fox screaming and coyotes and wolves. And I wonder how close the Indians are. I think Sam's scared, but he won't admit it. And I hope Mary and the children are okay at home. Finally, around midnight, we stop to camp. Exhausted and hungry, I fall into a dead sleep, only to be woken at dawn. Colonel Hawthorne orders a few younger soldiers and the slaves who accompanied us to stay with the horses and supplies. To my relief, he states my son must stay back as well. Hopefully my neighbor, Annalise Valentine, who is assigned to guard the horses, will watch over him. We continue on foot. You can feel the tension. It should not be that much longer. They can't be that far ahead of us, that band of Tories with the stolen goods. And it is still hot and grueling. I've long since sweated through my clothes and drank all my water, and I see the Knapp brothers look just as exhausted. And we are up over the river, and we can see down in at the river. And we see them. We see the Indians crossing the river with the stolen cattle. We got them now, all exhausted and forgotten. This is it. Colonel Hawthorne devises a plan, a three-pronged ambush. We're uphill, they don't know we're there. A three-pronged ambush where we go down the hill and we ambush those marauding group of Tories. Tuscan is assigned right, Hawthorne is center, and I forgot who was left. And we start going down the hill, and Hawthorne orders a small intercepting party to check out the lay of the land ahead of us. And that is led by Captain Tyler, being he is from Cruzatonk, which is now Narrowsburg, and he's familiar with the area. They go down, and the intercepting party is ahead of us, and all of a sudden, there is a gunshot. All surprise is lost. Brant now knows we're here, and they're coming after us. The battle has begun. So now let's talk about the facts of who, what, where, when of the battle. When? The battle was fought July 22nd, 1779. The American Revolution had been going on for over 4 years, and it was a July day, and yes, it was a very hot and humid day. So let's first talk about Joseph Brant, who he was. He was a Mohawk Native American, and he was very educated. In fact, he was educated at what became Dartmouth College. He met with George Washington, and he also went to England to meet with the King of England to negotiate on behalf of the Iroquois Confederacy, which the Mohawk were part of. He was very influential, and he became a loyalist because he felt they best served the protection of the Indians' rights and what they were hoping to get out of this fight between for independence and the British rule. And he led a group of Mohawks and colonial loyalists attacking along the New York frontier, and they were known as the Brant Volunteers. I just want to pause for a second. I've used the word Indians and savages, and not out of disrespect, but Native American was not in the lexicon of colonial America. So in the story, to put the thought process and where the people there were, I felt it was appropriate. So here is a great drawing. I don't know if you can see it that well, but I'll just point out where we are. This is Goshen, Chester area, and to the west of us is the Delaware River. On the Delaware River, this area was uninhabited, and there were just very few settlements being started along the river to make use of the river and have mills built on the river. Here's the Penpack neighborhood here along the Schwangunkill, and here's the Minisink settlement, and that is along the Delaware and the Mongap River. And here is where they saw the Indians or the Native Americans crossing the river. So just to give you a sense of the area where the battle took place. And so why the battle? The battle was simply fought because there was opportunity. This area was left unfortified, unprotected. Brant saw his opportunity to cause havoc, to interrupt the supply lines of the Continental Army, and to steal stores for the Tories. But why was it unprotected? Well, in 1778, after an invasion that took place, George Washington ordered a Count Pulaski and his cavalry and infantry to protect this area, which they did. And there are some stories that they were very well liked in the area, but then there's other stories that Pulaski didn't want to be there at all. He felt someone of his standing should be in the forefront, to be in the glory. He didn't want to be in a backwater protecting against Indians that he said weren't even there. So whatever took place between the different stories, it turned out that January of 1779, the cavalry left. February, Count Pulaski left and went to South Carolina. And in 1879, any remaining soldiers left. So this left the settlers completely unprotected. Only their own fortitude protected them, and militias, but the militias were a day away. And so the summer of 1779, Colonel Brant and his band of men, colonial loyalists and Mohawks, started a raid starting in Elmira, working down the western front, and all the way down to the Minisink neighborhood. And on July 20th, 1779, Brant's army raided the Minisink settlement, bringing homes, buildings, and they burnt the Mahakamac Church that was in Port Jervis. And they killed one person. It was a teacher at the Black Rat School, but they claim no children and women were hurt by the Native Americans fighting. And then they took their plunder and they headed upriver on the Delaware River, past Hawk's Nest, and they camped at the mouth of the Mon Gap. So let's talk about the militia. It was led by Colonel John Hawthorne. He's 4th Regiment of Orange County Militia, which was the Florida and Warwick Regiment. Chester being part of Warwick at that point in time, more than likely most Chester residents were in this regiment. 3rd Regiment Orange County Militia, the Goshen Minisink Regiment, and this was led by Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Tustin. There was also Pauling's levies that were said to be involved in the battle, and then the 2nd Regiment Sussex County Militia, led by Major Samuel Meeker, were also in the battle. So I did want to point out here that Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin Tustin was also a very well-respected medical doctor and a surgeon, and he was in charge of the 3rd Regiment of the Orange County Militia simply because Colonel Allison was actually captured at Fort Montgomery, and he was imprisoned in one of the notorious prison ships out on Long Island. And I also wanted to point out that Colonel John Seward was the commander of the 2nd Regiment of the Sussex County, but he was not present at the battle, so that put Major Samuel Meeker in charge of this militia. Okay, and this is just a drawing of the map. So here is Port Jervis, and this map along the river is the route that Brant took. The second point is where they camped overnight, and the third is where they were seen by the militia. And this high path, the Coosatunk path, that is what Colonel Hawthorne and the militia took. So the pursuit, we touched upon the pursuit in the story up until the point where the shot was misfired and the Native Americans and the Tories knew that they were there. And then the battle, once Brant and his Tories knew that the militia was there, the militia had to backtrack because they came down the hill to ambush to the river. So they had to backtrack up the hill so that they could have a point so that they could fight off the Tories. So they went back up the hill towards what is called Minisink Ford, and they made a battle square as best they could out of the boulders and the trees that were there. And they tried to fortify this square as best they could. And it was over 4 hours of gun battle between the Tories and the militias. And it wasn't until after 4 hours, where the ammunition almost was depleted, that Brant and his men were able to breach the battle square. And at that point in time, a bloody, gruesome hand-to-hand battle ensued. And Colonel Colonel Hawthorne, seeing this, called for a retreat, and he said, "God for us all." And they tried to retreat as best they could, and they were running down the hill towards the river, over the river, but they were pursued. So many of the people in the battle that were killed were the ones retreating, and not just in the battle square itself. So at the end of the battle, 46 militiamen are known to have been killed. That's 46 out of approximately 120 men. So to see the battlefield, you can actually walk through the battlefield. It's the Minisink Battlefield Park, and it's up in Berryville, New York. And it is the actual battlefield, and they have walking paths, and they have interpretation signs where you can read along the way and see what occurred where. Over here, this is Hospital Rock. It's an overcropping where there's like a cave underneath. And that is where Colonel Lieutenant Benjamin, who remember was also a doctor, tried as best he could to treat the wounded. And when they breached the battle square, Colonel Benjamin Tuscan was killed along with 17 others. From our story, Benjamin Bennett, he was killed as he tried to retreat the battle. The Knapp brothers were also killed. And from our story, Samuel Jones, who came to call the militiamen from the Drownlands, he was also killed. Valentine, who stayed back with the horses, survived, probably because he stayed back with the horses. Also, Benjamin Bennett's son was saved because he did not go directly into battle. He stayed back as well. But I encourage you to make a visit here. It's worth going up through Overhawk's Nest and really get a feel for what the wilderness was like back then. Even though the wilderness of today is not the wilderness of 250 years ago, you still get the sense of remoteness. So now let's talk about the Battle of Miniskink and the monument that was erected in its honor. But first, again, just like local history, why do monuments matter? So we just have this brief video that I think
Have you ever asked why we have
gives
monuments?
a good explanation.
Think of monuments as giant memory stones. They're built to remember important people, events, or ideas. When a community wants to honor a hero who did something brave, they create a monument. This could be a statue of a famous leader, or a memorial for those who fought in a war. Monuments help us remember our past and teach future generations about it. They also create a sense of identity and belonging. Like a family photo on the wall, monuments remind us of who we are and what we value. They are not just stone, they are stories carved in time, inviting us to reflect on our shared history and dreams.
So again, a monument helps us with our shared history and dreams, and it perpetuates the history of the area and promotes local history. So before we get into the monument, I want to talk about the remains. The remains, shockingly, I found this shocking when I started researching this. They were not retrieved until 43 years after the battle.
Wow. 3 attempts.
3 attempts. One of the attempts was the widows. There was 33 widows just from the Goshen Presbyterian Church alone. In fact, the Reverend Kerr said Goshen lost a generation of men that afternoon. But these 33 widows hired a gentleman to try and retrieve the remains. And there are several stories to why this failed, but that attempt failed. There was also Reverend Kerr himself and Henry Wisner of Continental Congress fame that tried, but they were also thwarted by winter weather. And you wonder, why did Henry Wisner want to go and retrieve the remains? Because one of the fallen victims was his son, Gabriel Wisner. And then it was not until 1820 when Dr. D.R. Arnell of the Orange County Society of Medical wanted to honor Dr. Benjamin Tuscan and rekindle the interest in retrieving the remains from the battlefield. And on April 1822, a party was set up to collect the remains. They collected approximately 300 bones, and via wagon, they brought them back to Goshen. And on July 22nd, 1822, the remains were buried with great ceremony in the old burial ground of the Presbyterian Church in Goshen. The surviving and aged soldiers served as pallbearers, one as old as 98 years old, and they were followed by many of the sons of the fallen in the battle. One of those was Benjamin Bennett's son, who was in the funeral procession. Colonel Hawthorne was also present, and he laid the cornerstone to the original monument. And at that point in time, and this to me is so interesting, at this point in time, it was known as the largest gathering in the country. About 12,000 to 15,000 people came to Goshen to pay their respects for these 46 fallen soldiers. And due to the wear and tear, the original monument was replaced in 1862. The original monument is actually outside the Goshen Public Library, and they have plans to bring it inside, encase it, and put it in the lobby so people will know what that monument is for. So we're going to talk about the monument that still stands. In 1861, Dr. Valarie Desharnais bequeathed $4,000 to the county to erect a monument to honor these fallen soldiers. $4,000 in 1862 is a lot of money. But in addition, the public and the county also helped this effort. And the monument was dedicated on the 83rd anniversary of the battle, July 22nd, 1862. Special train routes on the Erie Railroad were designed to bring people into this service. And now this monument is 162 years old, and it needs some repair, it needs some renovation if it's going to continue into the future to honor these fallen soldiers. And a special thank you to Derek Robertson Photography. He put his drone up, and some of these pictures were taken from his drone that you're going to see. So we're going to talk a little bit about the construction of the monument. There's layers. The monument stands 32 feet tall, and the lower base is of granite. The rest of the monument is marble, and there's a 5.5-foot square, and on top of that were 4 eagles stood on each corner. On top of that was a 12.5-foot shaft, and on top is a 5.5-foot figure. So at the base, there is a relief that depicts the battle. There is one of the sides that talks about the dedication of the money and the funds and to build the statue from Valarie Desharnais. And in the center, there is a depiction of the engraved names of the 46 fallen soldiers. As you can see, you can hardly read them at the top. It's fading away. We want to repair that. And we also want to put the black etching in. This used to have black etching, and I'm sorry?
Where is this monument located?
Okay, it is in Goshen. It's on the side. There used to be a burial ground on the side of the Presbyterian Church in Goshen, but when the railroad came in, they changed the road construction, and so all the interred were moved to Slate Hill Cemetery, but the only remaining grave on that side of the Presbyterian Church is the 46 fallen soldiers and the monument. So, and there used to be, all this used to be etched in black, and in 1950 they redid the black etching, so you could really read every single name. Obviously now you can barely read them. Some of them you can, like here is our Benjamin Bennett, and the Knapp brothers you can read. Gabriel Wisner you can read as well, just to name a few of the fallen soldiers that are listed. And this is not a raven, it is not a crow. This is a white marble eagle, but over years of dirt and grime and pollution and not being cleaned, it is now blackened. And they originally were white marble. And unfortunately, in 1932, 2 of the eagles were taken from the monument, and they've never been seen since. We just actually started a campaign this week. I don't know if anybody read about it. We started a campaign called Find Our Eagles. Yes. You never know. They might be out there. We have many barns still remaining in Orange County. So, and there are more clues. In fact, somebody emailed last night saying, did you ever do like Google Lens and search for the eagles online? So there's something that can be done. And there were many rumors abound for over the years, even into the 1950s and 70s. They were still talked about, and there were so many theories. And digging into the research, it was quite interesting. They did actually have a suspect, but he did a jailbreak out of the Newburgh jail at that point. That's more to come in another article. But I wanted to point out that the whole monument is very dirty and grime, and that's just years and years and years of just dirt building up, but more importantly, there are cracks and fissures that are starting to crack the monument. Right at this point in time, it does not impact the structural integrity of the monument, but if it's left unprotected, eventually it will impact the structural integrity of the monument, and we want to stop that process. So there's our wanted button. So this is the shaft of the monument, and here it's very clear there are striations, there are cracks going through the shield. Right now, they're mostly superficial. There are a few deeper ones. That's part of our renovation effort, and of course, to clean the monument. And on top of the shaft, there's this bunting arrangement, which is very ornate, and it looks like flowers that you would see like at a funeral procession. And here's the figure of hope. She stands 32 feet in the air, and she represents hope and is pointing heavenward. But when we got these photos back, these were taken by a drone, her pointer finger pointing heavenward is actually missing. So that is one of our goals, is to replace the missing finger as well. And she also is supposed to be white marble and doesn't not looks very gray and black, actually. And also, we did not realize this until we had the drone pictures. She's leaning on an anchor. And in Christianity, an anchor symbolizes safety, security, and hope. So that is our monument. But also, in addition to the monument, there's a burial fence that surrounds the hallowed grounds of these fallen soldiers, the remains of these fallen soldiers. And this is the original fence from 1862. And Ed Connor, the village historian, believes that this is the last colonial iron fence in the village of Goshen. So rather than replace the fence, our goal is to repair the fence. And it's actually not in terrible shape. I mean, the corners obviously do need some repair, but for the most part, all the points on the fence posts are still there. There are a few missing, some are loose, but there's a lot of corrosion and the lichen that needs to be repaired. And it's a special artisan trade that needs to do this because these type of fences are no longer made. And there's also this great image of the angel on the gate that opens into the hallowed grounds. So this is our monument restoration project. It is the Minisink DAR's 250th anniversary project for the American Revolution. And it's our goal to have it fully restored by the 250th anniversary of the battle, which is July 22nd, 2029. We've broken it down into 3 phases. The cleaning and repair is $20,000. The fence is estimated, because it's an artisan and not a unique trade. It is a unique trade. It's $25,000. Replacing the eagles. That is going to be our biggest lift of the project, and that's where we're hoping they'll reappear, rather than us having to use the existing eagles to create a cast for a stone carver to create 2 new eagles. And we started our Save Our Monument campaign July 2024, and as of now, we've collected over $18,000. And we are so proud of the public for what we've accomplished so far. And we are just shy of our first phase. And in addition to this, we also have a series running called American Patriots Remembered. We have it running in the Goshen Independent. And it's a weekly article. We highlight patriots that served in the Battle of Miniskink, or all their local patriots, but mostly we focus on the Battle of Miniskink. So we can again put that human element to the battle, the men that fought and their lives and how they were impacting their family legacy in the area and what brought them to Goshen. We do have those articles. If anybody has another publication that would be interested in them, by all means, we'd love to share the articles and spread the word. So this is an undated photo that Ed Connor found of the monument, and this is how it did look originally. All the white marble, here's the 4 eagles, and then the figurine on top. And then that's the burial fence as well. That's what we hope to bring back in 2029. So thank you. Thank you very much.